The sun did not merely shine, it struck the earth with the force of a blacksmith's hammer, turning the western plains into a shimmering anvil of gold and rust. Elara Vance pulled her threadbare wool shawl tighter around her shoulders, a futile defense against the relentless heat. Her pale green eyes scanned the horizon, where red rock formations jutted against the cloudless cyan sky, like the skeletal fingers of ancient giants. The wagon train had been trudging steadily for 3 agonizing days, inching toward the rumored fertile settlements near the Colorado River. It had been 6 months since William passed, 6 months since that blood-soaked night when bandits raided their modest homestead, leaving Elara a widow at 23. The other families in the caravan regarded her with a toxic cocktail of pity and superstition. A young woman traveling alone was an anomaly, a burden, and in the whispering darkness of the camp at night, a harbinger of bad luck. But Elara had no alternative. Her older sister Clara, in California, was the only blood she had left in this world. The scorched earth behind her held nothing but shallow graves and the bitter taste of ash. "Mrs. Vance," called out Silas Thorne, the wagon master, trotting his roan horse alongside her creaking wagon. His face, mapped with wrinkles from a lifetime of squinting at the sun, showed genuine concern beneath the shadow of his wide-brimmed hat. "We'll be circling at Devil's Gorge for water in 2 hours. You holding up?" Elara nodded, plastering a fragile smile onto her cracked lips. "Yes, Mr. Thorne. Thank you for asking." He lingered, his gaze shifting to the horizon, then tipped his hat and rode ahead. Elara knew exactly what he hadn't said. They were crossing into the heart of Apache territory. The mere thought sent a chill rattling down her spine that had nothing to do with the temperature. Tales of raids, scalping, and kidnappings had circulated through the wagon train like a fever, growing more grotesque with every retelling around the campfire. As they pushed deeper, the landscape mutated. Saguaro cacti stood like silent, prickly judges, their arms raised in surrender or prayer to the unforgiving sky. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of dry sage and something metallic, something wild that made the oxen low in distress. Elara's horse, a gentle mare she called Marigold, whinnied softly and danced nervously in the harness. It happened as the sun began its bleeding descent behind the jagged western peaks. The attack was swift, brutal, and confusing. It was not the Apache, as every nightmare had predicted, but white bandits, road agents who knew the rhythms of the wagon trains intimately. Gunshots cracked the air like dry thunder. Women screamed, a sound that tore through the dusty air. Men shouted orders that dissolved instantly into the chaos. "Circle the wagons! Defensive positions!" Thorne's voice boomed, but it was a command given to ghosts. The bandits had chosen their kill zone perfectly, striking when the train was strung out along a narrow, rocky pass. Elara watched in paralyzed horror as the lead wagon erupted into a fireball. She scrambled for William's old Winchester rifle, her hands trembling so violently she nearly dropped the cartridges. A bandit on a massive black horse charged her wagon, his face masked by a grime-stained bandana. She raised the rifle, leveled it at his chest, and pulled the trigger. Click. She had forgotten to chamber a round. The bandit's triumphant laugh was cut short by a wet thud. An arrow whistled from the cliffs, burying itself in his shoulder. He tumbled from his saddle with a gargled cry. Elara spun around, trying to comprehend the shifting tides of the battle. Through the choking dust and black smoke, she saw them. Apache warriors, descending from the rocky outcroppings like poured water, attacking the bandits from the rear. In the bedlam, friend and foe blurred. The Thorne family's wagon overturned with a sickening crunch of wood. Elara saw little Sophie Thorne crawling from the wreckage, blood streaming from a gash on her forehead, blinding her. Instinct overrode terror. Elara leaped from her wagon seat, hitting the hard ground running. "Stay down!" she heard a man scream, but she sprinted toward the child. She scooped Sophie into her arms just as another bandit wheeled his horse toward them, raising a pistol. Elara had no weapon. She had no shield. She squeezed her eyes shut, curling her body around the child, waiting for the bullet. The impact never arrived. When she dared to open her eyes, the bandit lay sprawled in the dirt, a tomahawk embedded deep in his spine. Standing over him was an Apache warrior. He moved with a fluid, predatory grace as he retrieved his weapon, for a heartbeat, a second that stretched into an eternity. their eyes locked. His were dark as obsidian, fierce, yet holding a depth of sorrow she hadn't expected. Then he vanished, dissolving back into the swirl of the fight. The skirmish ended as abruptly as it had begun. The surviving bandits fled into the deepening twilight, pursued by a handful of yipping warriors. The wagon train was decimated. Of the 12 families that had started the journey, only 7 wagons remained functional. Silas Thorne was dead, along with 6 other men. The Apache had disappeared like smoke, taking nothing, leaving only questions and terror in their wake. Young Caleb Thorne, barely 16, but now the patriarch of his family, took charge. "We move, now, before they come back or bring more." "But the wounded," Elara began, her voice raspy. "We take who we can walk. We leave the wreckage." His voice was hard, calcified by the violence he had just survived. Elara helped load the wounded into the remaining wagons. She handed little Sophie back to her weeping mother, though the child's blood still stained Elara's calico dress. As the decimated train prepared to lurch forward, Elara realized with a cold dread that her wagon was among the ruins, its axle shattered. Marigold was gone, likely spooked and running wild or stolen. Everything she owned, her clothes, William's letters, her mother's silver locket, was gone. "You'll have to ride with the Millers," Caleb told her curtly. "There's no room elsewhere." But when she approached the Miller wagon, Mrs. Miller turned her face away. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Vance. We're overloaded as it is. Maybe the Fletchers." The Fletchers said the same. So did the Blackwoods. Elara understood. She wasn't just a widow now. She was a curse. She was the woman who brought death. No one wanted the bad luck charm sitting next to their children. "I'll walk," she said quietly, lifting her chin with the last scraps of dignity she possessed. As the wagons groaned and rolled away, Elara trudged behind them, her boots already filling with grit. The sun set, painting the desert in shades of bruised purple and blood red. She focused on putting one foot in front of the other, refusing to contemplate the darkness gathering at her heels. An hour passed, then 2. The distance between her and the lanterns of the wagons grew. Her throat burned like she had swallowed glass. She stumbled, skinning her palms on the shale, and knew she couldn't get up. The wagons were just flickering sparks in the distance now, fading into the night. That was when the sandstorm hit. It came roaring out of the north like a living beast, a wall of suspended earth that blotted out the stars. Elara curled into a tight ball, pulling her shawl over her head, trying to filter the air through the wool. The wind howled like a choir of demons, pelting her with rocks and stinging sand. She thought of William and wondered if she would see him soon. Perhaps this wasn't such a bad way to die, swallowed by the land itself. Through the roar of the wind, she felt the vibration of hooves. Panic seized her heart. The bandits had returned to finish the job. She tried to burrow deeper into the sand, to become invisible, but strong hands gripped her shoulders, hauling her up. She fought weakly, striking out with no strength behind the blows. A voice spoke words she didn't understand, guttural and sharp. Apache. Terror gave her one final surge of adrenaline. She struck out blindly, her fist connecting with solid muscle. The man didn't even flinch. He lifted her onto his horse as easily as if she were a sack of grain. Through the swirling dust, she glimpsed his face. It was him, the warrior from the battle, the one who had saved Sophie. Up close, he was younger than she had thought, perhaps 30. His cheekbones were sharp enough to cut, and his eyes seemed to look right through her soul. He spoke again, this time in broken, halted English. "Storm, death, you come." She had no choice. She was too weak to resist, too exhausted to maintain her terror. He pulled her against his chest, wrapping a heavy buffalo hide around both of them. His body was a furnace of heat, solid and smelling of leather, sage, and horse sweat. As he guided the horse through the blinding storm with supernatural skill, Elara found her body betraying her mind. She relaxed against him. The storm raged, but within the shelter of his arms, the world was still. The rhythmic gait of the horse and the steady thrum of the warrior's heart against her back lulled her toward the black abyss of sleep. Somewhere in her fading consciousness, she heard him humming, a low, vibrating sound meant to calm the horse, or perhaps the spirits. Elara Vance, proper Christian widow, slept against the chest of an Apache warrior, unaware that this moment of unconscious surrender would rewrite her entire destiny. Oh. The first sensation was warmth, not the scorching abrasion of the sun, but a gentle enveloping heat. She stirred, her body protesting with a symphony of aches. Memory crashed into her mind, the attack, the abandonment, the storm, the warrior. Her eyes flew open. She was lying on soft furs inside a wickiup, a domed structure of bent saplings covered in brush and hides. Pale morning light filtered through the entrance. Outside, she heard the mundane sounds of a village, dogs barking, children laughing, the rhythmic grinding of corn. Elara sat up, dizziness spinning the room. She was still in her dress, though her boots had been removed. A clay pot of water and a wooden platter of dried meat sat nearby. The entrance flap swept aside, and an elderly woman entered. Her face was a map of deep lines, her gray hair plaited in 2 long braids woven with bright beads. She studied Elara with eyes like polished agates. "You wake," the woman said, in heavily accented English. "Drink." Elara drained the pot. The water was cool and sweet. "Thank you," she rasped. "I am Elder Willow," the woman said. "You are in camp of Chief Tall Oaks. My nephew brought you from Storm." "Your nephew?" Elara's mind raced. "The warrior?" Before Elder Willow could answer, a shout erupted outside. It was an argument, loud and aggressive. Through the flap, Elara saw a crowd gathering. Her rescuer stood in the center, stoic as a statue, while an older man with a scar running down his chest screamed at him in Apache. "What is happening?" Elara asked, fear spiking. Elder Willow's face darkened. "Red Fox says you must die, says white woman brings bluecoats, brings death." She paused, weighing her next words. "But there is old law." The argument outside reached a fever pitch. Elara saw her rescuer gesture violently toward the wickiup. An ancient man leaning on a staff stepped forward, silencing the crowd with a raised hand. Elder Willow drew a sharp breath. "Ah, so it is." "What? Tell me," Elara begged. "Last night, you sleep against my nephew, all night, through storm, against his heart." Elder Willow looked at her with pity. "No ropes, no force?" "No," Elara whispered. "I was unconscious. But you did not fight. You accepted heat. You accepted life." Elder Willow stood. "By old law, this means you are his woman now, his wife." The words hit Elara like a physical blow. She scrambled to her feet, ignoring the vertigo, and burst out of the wickiup. The crowd turned, dozens of dark eyes fixed on her. Her rescuer stood rigid, his gaze locking onto hers. "This is madness," she shouted, her voice cracking. "I am not his wife. I didn't agree to anything." The ancient man, the spiritual leader known as Spirit Walker, spoke. A younger brave translated, his English surprisingly good. "The signs are clear. The white woman came to Iron Kestrel in the storm. She slept against his heart. The spirits have woven their threads." Iron Kestrel. So, that was his name. Chief Tall Oaks stepped forward. He was a man of immense presence, radiating authority. "This brings danger. The whites will say we stole you. They will bring the cavalry." "Then let me go," Elara pleaded. "I'll tell them you saved me. I'll walk to the nearest fort." Chief Tall Oaks smiled, a bitter, cynical expression. "They will say we broke your mind. They will come with cannons regardless." Red Fox spat on the ground. "Kill her! Hide the body deep in the canyon." Iron Kestrel moved then, placing his body between Elara and Red Fox. He spoke for the first time, his voice a low rumble of thunder. "My woman," he said in English, the words thick on his tongue. "My protect." Red Fox's hand drifted to his knife. "Enough," Tall Oaks barked. "The old law is invoked. She stays as Iron Kestrel's wife, unless—" He looked at Elara. "Unless she proves the joining false, that she fears him as an enemy." "How?" Elara asked. Spirit Walker pointed his staff at the desert. "7 sons. You must run, hide, refuse his food, his fire. If you succeed, you are free to go. If you fail," he shrugged. "And if I refuse the test?" Elara asked. "Then you accept the marriage," Tall Oaks said coldly. "You become Apache, you live Apache, you die Apache." Elara looked at the unforgiving landscape. 7 days, without supplies, hunted by a warrior in his own element. But the alternative was a forced marriage to a stranger in a culture she had been taught to fear. "I'll run," she said. Sage Mother appeared with a water skin and moccasins. "Take, white boots loud, clumsy." She leaned in close. "Advice, child, do not run far. Desert kills faster than Apache. Hide, be still." At high noon, a drum beat 3 times. Elara ran. The test was a disaster. Elara lasted 4 days. On the 4th afternoon, delirium set in. She had huddled in a crevice of rock, her lips cracked, her skin burned raw. She hallucinated William calling to her. When the shadow fell over her, she didn't even flinch. Iron Kestrel didn't gloat. He didn't speak. He simply lifted her, poured water carefully into her mouth, and carried her back to camp. Weeks passed. Elara was now the White Witch of the camp. The women shunned her. The children threw stones until their mothers scolded them. Only Elder Willow showed her kindness, teaching her to grind corn and identify herbs. Iron Kestrel was a ghost. He slept outside the wickiup, leaving her the interior. He provided food, but offered no words. The turning point came with blood. A hunting party returned carrying a screaming child, Small Bear, a boy of 8. He had been mauled by a mountain lion. His leg was a ruin of torn flesh. Whispering Wind, the medicine woman, was away gathering roots. The boy's mother wailed, clutching her son as he grew pale. Elara knew infection would kill him within days. Back in Ohio, her father had been a country doctor. She knew wounds. "I can help," she told Elder Willow. "They will not let you." "He will die if I don't." Iron Kestrel appeared, drawn by the noise. He looked at the boy, then at Elara. "You know healing?" "Yes, but I need hot water, clean cloth, willow bark." Iron Kestrel turned to the crowd and barked orders. When the mother protested, he silenced her with a look. Elara worked for hours. She cleaned the wound, stitched the torn muscle with sinew, and packed it with a poultice Elder Willow identified. She worked with a focus that blocked out the hostile stares. When she finished, the boy slept peacefully. "Clean the bandages twice a day," she told the mother, gesturing the instructions. The mother looked at Elara, her eyes searching. Slowly she reached out and touched Elara's hand. A silent, "Thank you." That night, Iron Kestrel entered the wickiup. He sat by the fire, watching her. "You have strong hands," he said. "Good heart." "A child is a child," Elara replied, defensiveness in her tone. "Red Fox says you are a spy, counting warriors." "Red Fox is a fool," she snapped. A flicker of amusement danced in Iron Kestrel's eyes. "Yes, he is." He pulled a small stone from his pouch, a piece of turquoise. He placed it on the ground between them. For the boy, it was the first brick removed from the wall between them. Summer brought the drought. The Rio Grande thinned to a muddy ribbon. Game migrated north. The camp suffered. Tempers flared, and Red Fox grew louder in his demands to raid the white settlements for water and cattle. "We raid, the soldiers come," Tall Oaks argued. "We die." "We stay, we die of thirst," Red Fox countered. Iron Kestrel spoke up. "There is a hidden spring in the Canyon of Echoes. The old ones spoke of it." "If it still flows," Red Fox sneered. "I will go," Iron Kestrel said. He looked at Elara. "She comes." "Me?" Elara asked. "You smell water. You see things others miss." They rode out with 2 other warriors and Elder Willow. The canyon was a furnace of red rock. They found the spring, but it was choked by a rock slide, massive boulders blocking the flow. "Dead," one warrior muttered. Elara studied the physics of the slide. "No, blocked." She pointed to a keystone boulder. "If we leverage that one, the pressure might clear the rest." It was dangerous work. They used logs as levers, straining until their muscles burned. Elara worked alongside the men, her hands bleeding. "Push!" Iron Kestrel roared. The rock shifted. With a grinding crash, the slide gave way. Elara and Iron Kestrel scrambled back as a torrent of clear, cold water burst forth, filling the basin. They cheered. For the first time, the warriors looked at her not as a burden, but as a contributor. That night, by the spring, Iron Kestrel sat beside her. The sky was a spray of diamonds. Why did you help? He asked. You could have let us fail, weakened us. I don't want to see children die of thirst, she said. Besides, I live here now, don't I? Iron Kestrel reached out, his fingers brushing the scar on her palm from the rockwork. My first wife, morning dew. Soldiers killed her 3 winters ago. Elara's breath caught. I am sorry. I thought my heart was a stone, dead. He looked at her, his obsidian eyes soft. But the stone is cracking. He leaned in. It wasn't a demand, it was a question. Elara didn't pull away. When their lips met, it wasn't like the stories of ravishment or conquest. It was tentative, sweet, and desperate. 2 broken people finding solace in the dark. Wonderful. The news of the white Apache spread. Silas Thorne, Caleb's older brother and a man of bruised ego and violent temper, led a rescue party to the camp. They came under a flag of parley, but their hands hovered over their pistols. Elara Vance! Silas shouted. We've come to take you home. The camp went silent. Tall Oaks looked at Elara. Your choice. Elara stepped forward. She wore buckskins now, her blonde hair in braids. You're safe now, girl, Silas sneered, eyeing Iron Kestrel. We'll kill these savages and get you cleaned up. I am clean, Elara said, her voice ringing clear. And I am home, Silas blinked. They've bewitched you. No, they saved me when you people left me to die in the sand. She stepped next to Iron Kestrel, taking his hand. I am his wife, by choice. You're choosing a savage over your own blood? Over God? I'm choosing honor over hypocrisy, she replied. Go, Silas, tell them I died. Silas spat. You'll wish you had. When they rode away, the camp looked at her differently. She had passed the final test. 3 weeks later, under the full moon, Elara and Iron Kestrel were married. It was a ceremony of fire and smoke. They bound their hands with a sash. I, Iron Kestrel, take you, Elara, to hunt, to protect, to hold, until the stars fall. I, Elara, take you, Iron Kestrel, to heal, to build, to love, until the rivers dry. Chief Tall Oaks, respecting her past, allowed her to read a psalm from a tattered Bible. The cultures blended in the firelight, creating something new. But Silas Thorne was not a man to let insults sleep. He brought Colonel Sterling and the cavalry. The attack came at dawn. The canyon echoed with the boom of a howitzer. The Apache fought fiercely, but they were outgunned. We must flee, Tall Oaks ordered. Into the Badlands. They will follow as long as they think she is here, Iron Kestrel said, reloading his rifle. They want a victory, a rescue. Spirit Walker stepped forward. Then give them one. The plan was terrifying. They used a paralytic herb mixed with a red berry paste. When the soldiers breached the perimeter, they found a scene of carnage. Elara was screaming, fighting Iron Kestrel. A shot rang out, blank powder. Iron Kestrel fell, blood, berry paste, blooming on his chest. Elara threw herself over him, wailing, buying time for the paralytic to slow his heart to a near stop. Get her! Colonel Sterling shouted. Check the buck! He's dead, sir! A private yelled, kicking Iron Kestrel's motionless body. They dragged Elara away, kicking and screaming. She played the part of the traumatized captive perfectly, all while her heart broke, praying the medicine wasn't too strong, praying he would wake up. She was taken to Fort Buchanan. She was scrubbed, dressed in corsets, and paraded as a symbol of civilization's triumph. She smiled, she nodded, and she plotted. Every night she watched the hills. On the 7th night, she found an eagle feather on her windowsill. He was alive. Elara feigned a desire to return to her sister in California. Colonel Sterling, eager to be rid of the disturbed woman, arranged passage on a supply train. 3 days out, the Nighthawk called. The attack was surgical. Not a raid, but a distraction. Horses stampeded. In the confusion, a shadow slipped into Elara's wagon. Come, Iron Kestrel whispered. They ran into the night, meeting Elder Willow, Small Bear, and a dozen others who had escaped the roundup. They were refugees now. No land, no home, hunted by 2 nations. Where do we go? Iron Kestrel asked, looking at his ragged band. Mexico is war. The reservation is death. Elara pulled a crumpled map from her dress. California, my sister Clara. She has land in the high Sierras. It's isolated, rough. She will not accept us. She's family, Elara said. And she's struggling. She needs workers. She needs us. The journey was a grueling odyssey of hunger and evasion, but when they finally crested the ridge overlooking Clara's ranch, Elara felt a surge of hope. Clara met them with a shotgun, but when she saw Elara, alive, fierce, unmasked, she dropped the weapon. "I brought help," Elara said, gesturing to the Apache families, "and I brought my husband." It wasn't easy, the town whispered. There were fights. But the Apache worked harder than any hands Clara had ever hired. They irrigated the dry fields. They healed the livestock. Slowly, the ranch became a sanctuary, a place between worlds. One evening, years later, Elara sat on the porch with Iron Kestrel. The air smelled of pine and rain. Their son, a boy with golden hair and obsidian eyes, chased chickens in the yard. "Do you miss the plains?" she asked. Iron Kestrel looked at the mountains. "I miss the freedom." But, he touched the blue stone necklace at her throat, "home is not land. Home is where the heart beats." Elara smiled, leaning her head on his shoulder. They were survivors. They were the bridge between the fire and the water. And in this quiet valley, they had built a peace that no army could conquer. Thank you for journeying with Elara and Iron Kestrel. If this story of survival and forbidden love moved you, I have a small favor to ask. Share your thoughts. Would you have chosen the hard freedom of the desert over the safety of the fort? Let me know in the comments below. Subscribe, join the Dust and Legends community for more epic stories of the Wild West every day.